Okay, thank you everyone, and a good day to you all. Welcome to the UbuntuNet Alliance Services workshop. I am Alex Motil from UbuntuNet Alliance. And as you may have read in the description for this workshop, we are doing this in a more consultative or from a more consultative position, especially on current service developments and deployments by national research and education networks, especially of the UbuntuNet Alliance. Later on, we'll also present some of the services that the UbuntuNet Alliance has to members, those that are currently in place, others that are under development, but also some that are coming, of course, soon. And so today, the agenda, the first part of the agenda being, of course, an introduction, which I have done. We'll also just have the end-to-end services debrief, which is going to be very engaging, and that will be done by Tiwonge Banda. And then we shall have a look at some of the services of the UbuntuNet Alliance. So I will go straight to Tiwonge to start us off.
It's a short presentation, very few slides, but I hope we'll have some good discussion here. Now, I want to start by talking about the what we all know. We have been talking about beyond connectivity for quite some time now. We all know that the primary services that UbuntuNet Alliance offers are based on connectivity, and I would say it's based on aggregating demand, and it benefits from economies of scale. Somehow that's how it's supposed to be anyways. Yeah, but we're able to aggregate demand and go to the supplier as one entity, and maybe that's why we've been able to get some relatively competitive pricing from suppliers over the years. Of course, as time passes, the advantage gets corroded, and then we procure again. And at the moment when procurement, I'm hoping that once the current procurement completes, we are going to regain that competitive advantage again, and prices will drop quite significantly. So it's very much about connectivity, but maybe the principles are the same. And we have been singing this Beyond Connectivity song for quite some time. As far as I remember, maybe as way back as when we had the UbuntuNet Connect in Maputo, that's around 2000 and maybe 15 or before that. But we've been talking about beyond connectivity for quite some time. And UbuntuNet Alliance has been slowly developing some value-added services, starting with those that are traditional to regional lanes. The question has been, what services or what is the role of the Alliance? There's questions like that. Anyways. And Alex, his presentation is going to give an overview of the services and where we are at the moment. But that's not what I want to focus on. I just want to focus on the process and perhaps the approach and maybe what UbuntuNet Alliance should be. Now, you know that we have been doing, we were doing this survey financed by the AFD, and this slide is taken from that survey. We asked NRENs to tell us about the services that they offer, and we aggregated them. So what you see on the x-axis is the number of NRENs that are offering that particular service. And on the right, I mean on the y-axis is the actual service itself. And from this, you can see that eduroam, web conferencing are offered by like 7 NRENs, identity federation by 6 NRENs, infrastructure as a service by 5 NRENs, all the way, with some services being offered by like 1 NREN. This was an open question, and so NRENs filled in the way they wanted, and we just we grouped the answers and produced this graph. But for us, this was like a good starting point, a good learning point to see, okay, I know that this is not exhaustive. There are many things, but there could be many other services that endpoints are offering that may not appear here. But at least it gives us some idea about what is there. Then the question that we have is, okay, so this is what endpoints are doing. Then what should Ubuntu Alliance be doing? Or going beyond that is to say, how best then should Ubuntu Alliance be doing that? And maybe the other question could be, how best can endpoints learn from each other? How can we leverage the experience that one endpoint has? Or if it's a common service, how best can that service be offered? How can we pull together resources if it's necessary, or if it makes sense, so that we can offer that service in a way that is efficient, and also maybe save some costs there. But I think this is a good slide. Talks a lot, a number of questions there. Then I want to talk about this, what I call the Legionary Dilemma. This is basically the way that you are familiar with this. It's like just shared multiple times. It talks about how regional ranges are organized, how at national level, at regional level, and at global level. It shows the functions of each. Like, for example, the at regional range connect endpoints and endpoints connect institutions. So the responsibility or role of the regional range stops at the national, is at the regional level. Anyway, when you come to the national level, it's basically the role of the endpoint to connect as well as to provide services to the institutions. And so it's awkward, it's old, and doesn't make sense for regional range to go down from the regional range, from the regional to the given institution. That we don't do that. So it's a structure that provides order. So, but the disadvantage is that it disadvantages regional range. I'm using disadvantage in quotes because I'm not trying to say we should be doing that, but I'm just presenting as it is. It gives the regional range limited space, but that's how it is anyways. So as I'm saying, that regional ranges are disadvantaged because most of the services are best offered by the endpoint, or can be best offered by the endpoint, because of the ones that are, the endpoint is the one that is end user facing, and that sits with the end user, so that interacts with the end users. So it makes perfect sense that way. For the regional range, not so much. So the question is then, in that case, what sort of services do endpoints expect from regional range like the Alliance? Going further, then we say, how best then can regional range like the Alliance position itself to offer the best services to endpoints? And then there is the dilemma of big versus smaller endpoints. So you notice that sometimes the regional range like the Alliance take on services that should be done by the endpoint, but because the endpoint is small, then a decision is taken to say, okay, if we don't do this, then the endpoint and the community in that country gets left behind. So the Alliance may take responsibility in some way until the endpoint is up on its feet. So there is that dilemma to say, how do we just say this is done by endpoints and we forget about it? But how about those countries? Maybe we could have a mechanism that those endpoints could learn from another end. But these are open questions that we have, and I thought we could discuss them here, especially we want to keep collecting information or your views as this ongoing consultative process to understand. So what sort of services do NRENs expect from the Alliance and how best the Alliance can position itself to offer those services? I think this can be easily answered if we answer the first question about what sort of services. And personally, and I've been sharing this with the colleagues, I believe that with this structure that I have here, to me, I think the Alliance then, or regional NRENs, must offer services that help the NREN offer the best services to their constituents. This could be this being the best could be in terms of cost savings, cost in terms of efficiency, or many other things. And I want to give this example of Edurom. Edurom is best offered by the NREN. The NREN manages the infrastructure at national level, but maybe the access points and all that are at the institution. So the question that we would ask is, say, what must then a regional NREN do or offer to help the NREN offer the best Edurom service? And then the answer to that question may not be what the end user sees, but it basically is, I believe, the support infrastructure, the support infrastructure that makes Edurom work, if at all that exists. This is the case of Edurom, but it may be something else. It may be another service. So if it's trust and identity, so that, again, the federation is at national level. The federation is at national level. The NREN manages and runs that. So what would be the role then of the Alliance or of a regional NREN to help the NREN offer the best federation services? It can be any other service that one can think of, but I personally think if we can answer that question, then we know that for each service that the NREN starts here and stops here, the Alliance starts there and stops there. Maybe the Alliance might be in the back end, but in a sustainable way, of course, because it has to be sustainable. Possible areas that we have been thinking of, maybe we talk of content services. Maybe there are some content services that the Alliance could offer at regional level. These are very much do not break the relationships that I showed on the graphic before. For example, the way we are doing this utafiti, that it goes, it's the end users are people, or maybe institutions or people there. It's the service gets offered to everyone. It provides information about research opportunities, so that goes to everyone. But maybe related to what I was discussing could be framework agreements. Maybe it's about a framework agreement or framework agreements with providers like AWS or Microsoft. There's been some ongoing discussion with AWS. They came and said they want to. They came and said they want to have they were offering their own services, and we said, okay, if AWS wants to sell these services, then we have to do it together somehow. So we have been discussing this, and there's going to be a tender coming out quite soon to identify AWS resellers. But the way it's going to be structured is such a way that if a country or an institution wants to run their own procurement, they can still do it, but it will fall within this broader agreement, this broader framework agreement. And it has taken long to discuss. And they are not asking for, like, at this point, like any any consumption projections or anything like that, because that we don't know, but we're hoping that this is going to bring some cost advantage. Is it those framework agreements that are done at regional level, based on demand aggregation and trying to achieve economies of scale? If that is the case, the question that we have always struggled, and it's good that AWS didn't, or they understood, is about aggregating demand, because we can't speak on behalf of the whole region. Yes, we can do that, but we don't want to do that because we don't know. We don't know who wants a particular service in the 16 or 26 countries. If we knew, that would be fine, because we could say, okay, AWS, we have this number of institutions, they want this particular service, what price can you give us? Maybe. And so they say that the price will come down depending on the number of institutions or users or consumption that we are talking about. We don't have such numbers, so we don't have that data, so we can't aggregate the demand. Or maybe brokerage. We managed to discuss some brokerage. It's not a framework agreement, but we have a broker service with Septigo. Maybe we could have more of those. We believe that we did it, and Alex is going to share more about this, but we believe that we got some good some good pricing out of that, the discussion we had with Septigo. So these are some of the things that we have been thinking about, and some of them are already in the pipeline, and some of them have already are already being offered.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I will focus on services again based on what Tiwonge presented. So there were a list of services in this first slide, and I have tried to sort of categorize these services. Again, it may not be really the final document, but at least based on my understanding and further information about some of these services. And clearly, the connectivity service is top of the agenda for us and the UbuntuNet Alliance, but also for all the entrants. And I will not go so much into details about the connectivity service, but I think clearly there are three areas under connectivity that UbuntuNet Alliance, of course, works with. The next part I will look at is under maybe trust and identity. So put that again as a bigger category. And yes, we've really been trying to work with many entrants, and sometimes, of course, with institutions through the entrants. On our best, we can actually be able to support them in sort of of course, running or deploying some of the T&I services. And one of the things that has always come in is identity management, which still remains, of course, a major hindrance to, of course, very many institutions within our region. Again, this is not a replacement to what the institutions have, but sometimes we want to demonstrate the relevance of a service. And so we normally need solutions that can actually help us in moving fast, of course, with that. And the managed IDP has actually worked very well for this. Because even us and the UbuntuNet Alliance, we are using it, and we've been able to at least experiment with EduROM. We've also been able to experiment with it as, of course, an identity provider for, of course, an identity federation. And so this is a service that we feel that some other entrants or some other institutions normally need when they are, of course, starting out. And I agree that the incubation process needs to have somewhere where it starts from until eventually, of course, they're able to manage some of these components by themselves. Also, on EduRoam, yeah, we have some services, of course, that many of the entrants are using. For example, the switchboard. Switchboard has been in place probably for the last 2-3 years, and we've seen entrants that are continually relied on using what switchboard actually provides in terms of maybe setting up a radius server for EduRoam. And this has worked, and it has really greatly reduced some of the times that are required. That is both for the institutions, for the entrants, but again, the way we have structured it is very similar to what Chiwonga was presenting. That at the regional end, yeah, we just provide the infrastructure and some form of capacity building. And then below that, we give access to the entrant, and the entrant basically manages other institutions. The other service that we've also been providing is the regional proxy services, which we are doing with Workrem. And I can confirm that now we have like 10 national roaming operators. These are the ones that are working. 10 national roaming operators that are using the regional proxy services. Now, in order to sort of roll out EduRoam, Chiwonga asked a very good question, that what exactly is our role? And I believe that as UbuntuNet Alliance, our role is mainly in terms of support. And I can confirm that for the last maybe now coming to 2 years, we've been able to provide support, technical support, but also sometimes policy support to 3 entrants. Maren, one of them, we've also been able to provide this support to Ethernet, and most recently also provided this support to Somaliland. Yes, there are some other countries, of course, because again, this is a service that we really want to push, and those on the horizon, and we're looking forward to working with. One is being DRC. The second one, Zimbabwe. I know there's already some work there. And then the other one is also Botswana, just in preparation for our conference later this year. So this is really mainly a supportive function that we are providing in terms of these 2 services. That also extends to the identity federation support that we actually do provide. Again, capacity building, very important. But as the 3 regional RENs operating in Africa, we also went ahead and then came up with what we call the African Cultural Federation, which is called EduID.Africa. Now, again, the main reasons as to why we came up with EduID.Africa was, one, to demonstrate the relevance of an identity federation, especially in a country. So that means that we actually want to go to countries, for example, that do not have an identity federation, and then demonstrate the power of this particular service. And then eventually, of course, the EduGain process. Again, I'm happy to report, for example, that we've been able to work with Kenya for this, and Rafiki, as the name of the federation, is now an EduGain candidate. Also, the EduID.Africa Federation is also an EduGain candidate. The Somaliland Identity Federation is also established, and I know that in a few weeks' time, they will also be applying to join EduGain. And then the Ethernet Identity Federation is also one that we are still working closely with. Again, just to mention, and you can clearly see that this is really about empowering, of course, entrants in many ways. And like some of you mentioned, from an experience viewpoint, but also if you look at EduID.Africa, yes, we know that there are countries that may not have ident federations, but they want to be a part of a federation because they see a need for that particular federation or to be a part of that federation. And so this actually makes a lot of sense, especially in our setups. The other point I want to talk about is in cloud and storage. Now, going back to the big and the small entrants, we've had cases where entrants actually come to us and then they say, okay, they want to have a certain service because maybe they're using it for demonstration purposes, or maybe we're doing, let's say, capacity building, or they're doing capacity building and they need maybe say a certain number of machines that they want to use for that particular service. We've also had scenarios where there are organizations which you can't easily say they belong to a certain country or to a certain entrant, but still they want to have a certain service from the UbuntuNet Alliance. And so we've been able to actually work with them to provide, of course, some of these services. But I should mention that most of the services that we actually see here to allow like entrants to demonstrate, well, to allow us to demonstrate to entrants, for example, why would they need ident federations? And we have some services, for example, that they can actually be able to leverage, maybe say credentials at their institutions and then be able to actually access this particular service. The other one also has been, yes, in terms of collaborations and what we're looking at, and we're saying, okay, as an entrant, are there particularly maybe cloud and storage services that you want to provide to the community? Okay, and how can others be able to utilize those services? Again, what we are trying to do here is mainly to bring that collaboration bridge into effect and say, okay, entrant A as service B that entrant C might actually want. And we feel that this is mainly in terms of cloud. So can they be able to federate some of the resources and then be able to like share, of course, some of those resources. Also, there are some research projects that the UbuntuNet Alliance, for example, like coordinates. A very good example is Africa Connect 3. And Africa Connect 3 says, okay, we want infrastructure for this service ABCD. Well, we know definitely there's the public cloud. And again, it's not that we are running away from the public cloud. We are actually working with them, as Tiwonge has also explained. But we feel that there are some environments that we know can be best used for, let's say, simulations, or maybe say laboratories. And we feel that if we can have like some kind of federated cloud resources, this can become easier for the community to use and like access. The other service that we also have is in DOIs, or the digital object identifiers. And to just summarize this, we know that we are part of the research and education community, and there is always material, there are documents, there are tools, but we want to be able to assign some persistent identifiers to these particular tools. And so late last year or mid last year, we actually came up, or we actually approached Datasite, I think before, and then of course we had a collaboration out of our early engagements with Datasite, and then said, okay, I think this is probably a service that is like more structured in terms of where UbuntuNet Alliance can actually be placed. For example, Datasite has this concept of one, a consortium being one that has members So very typical to saying that you have the regional REN UbuntuNet Alliance, and then you have like a consortium member, and those members can actually have maybe repositories under them, and then those repositories, of course, have, of course, this particular material. Are they documents? Are they maybe papers? Yeah, so this might actually need, of course, some identifiers. And so through this partnership, we're able to provide actually identifiers to that material. And again, we should note that this is just to make, of course, some of the material findable, accessible, interoperable, but also reusable. And importantly, it's a persistence part. I'm saying, okay, if we give an identifier to this material, which is on this particular repository, that identifier will actually apply to, of course, that material forever, really, because we're talking about persistent identifier. And so till now, we have about 20,000 DOIs, which are registered under the UbuntuNet Alliance Consortium. We feel that this is a service that libraries might work to use. Certain institutions under, of course, the NRENs might also actually want to use. Again, Tiwonge mentioned about, of course, also this partnership that we have with Zeitgeist from the start of 2022. One, we had this service before, but then we were having challenges. And so some of the NRENs came to us and said, no, we don't want this service to actually leave the Alliance because it has been beneficial. And so we went ahead and said, okay, can we negotiate on your behalf? And then we get at least some good rates for this particular service. And so, yes, we went ahead, we got really some very good rates for provision of these OVSSL certificates, 4 NRENs now. And I think the certificates that we're providing could be maybe in the 200 plus range now. And we are working with more NRENs that might be interested in this particular service. We have premium support, the response times, as particular Kenneth, for example, can attest. Whenever we have issues and we raise them, we normally receive responses within a very short time. Again, the model is that the NREN is really in charge of the other feasibility to the institutions. And then for us, we basically just interface with the NREN. Yeah, at the start of this year, we were just thinking aloud. And one of the things that has come now is in terms of having maybe like platforms, content services to be specific, really. And Utafiti Africa has been one of those growing platforms. And this is just like an online database that provides funding opportunities to researchers that might be interested. Again, these opportunities cover like research grants, fellowships, travel grants, and then maybe grants to be able to at least get some equipment or some infrastructure. And it's maintained on that link below. And we keep populating it. And it's growing because there are a number of users now that really are subscribed to this particular service. Yeah, in terms of cybersecurity, again, the question has been, what exactly can the UbuntuNet Alliance, what role can the UbuntuNet Alliance play in terms of cybersecurity? Again, we should note that a few countries, probably 4 or 5, already have like CSATs. I think there are 4 within our community. And we also know that security incidents are not just about to disappear, and they are basically going to be on the rise. And so we've been thinking about what our role should be. And it's becoming a little bit clear that, again, and in terms of intelligence and security, you cannot stand by your own. you need to be able to easily exchange information, but you need to exchange that information with the rightful people. And so we are saying that if there are already entrants that have CSATs, can we play like a coordination role? Can we be able to have some platforms that can actually enable that information exchange between these different national R&E CSATs? And then, as I mentioned in my last slide, also in terms of capacity building, can we have like maybe, yeah, CSATs? I know again there are different levels in terms of maybe the times that they were set and what they are doing. But I feel that there is an opportunity for intelligence information to be shared. Okay, are there some advisories that you feel that the R&E community could actually benefit? Can the UbuntuNet Alliance provide a platform through which dissemination of that information can actually be like effective? Secondly, can we, using the expertise of the CSATs, come up with a framework that other new entrants can actually use, maybe modify, so that again, in the end, we basically have more persons, or we actually have more players. And with more players, that means that we can be able to share more information. And that means also we can be better prepared, especially when a security incident is maybe about to happen. And so we think that maybe this is one that we can actually play an active role, but also actively engage many other CSATs within our community. Again, I know that there are tools that they use. They might want to share those tools. There are probably also documents that they want to share with us, and even just generally their operations. Again, I know there are some entrants that are at the level of maybe even establishing a CSAT, but out of maybe the experiences, and we use those experiences so that this particular entrant might also factor in before they can actually venture into this. What are the expectations, the personnel that might be required? What about the tools? Okay, so we feel that this can actually become also really good in terms of course, setting up some of those particular again SATs or CSATs. I think it's important that in our community, collaboration always comes first. And in collaboration, we're talking about maybe learning. Are there tools that can be utilized at continental level for learning? Are there maybe video or web conferencing tools? Again, I know many entrants, for example, I think Rennie, also know Kenneth, use Big Blue Button. Can we be able to provide maybe that assistance to some of the entrants that need that particular service? Can we be able to have maybe some instances that some other maybe entrants without infrastructure might actually want to use? And then also Zoom, I know, for example, that I think Tenet has some kind of collaboration with Zoom. I know many other countries also that have these collaborations. And yeah, are there opportunities for us to maybe aggregate these collaborations? Again, I know we can, well, we stand a chance to benefit because we know with more collaborations, then maybe we'll pay much less compared to if one of the entrants is maybe using this. So we're looking at these opportunities, we can share them and then be able to all benefit. And that of course feeds into the last point in there, that is in frameworks and then partnerships. Again, I will not go so much into that because Tiwonge has really given good points to that. Finally, I think this should be my last slide. Capacity building. We know that entrants do a lot in capacity building. We've also been closely working with entrants to provide support. but also we've been able to bring entrants to our capacity building program so that they can benefit, but also that they can be able to share their expertise in different fields. And these are some of the areas that we've been able to run capacity building activities on. TNI, DevOps, cloud, cybersecurity. We have an event coming, I think, in October. Network engineering. I know there are a number of course, workshops that are under network engineering. Some of them have already been done, of course, this year. And so we would be more interested if we have more collaborations really here, where maybe an ENDREN invites maybe another member from another ENDREN to deliver. I know there are already some, but I think the question should be, can we make this better? How can the UbuntuNet Alliance, for example, be involved better? Are there maybe specific areas that UbuntuNet Alliance maybe should focus on? Well, I know these are the ones that we're working on, but I know that there are those that are more specific to the entrance. And I know there are cases where maybe also UbuntuNet Alliance members can also be invited and are able to, again, provide, of course, some support in delivering some of those particular sessions. Yeah, that's about it. Thank you so much. And now we'll just open it up for any other maybe questions in the Q&A session. Thank you.